A deep space human exploration vessel traveled through the emptiness of a forgotten sector, its sleek hull cutting through the void. The ship had been on patrol for months, scanning for anything unusual in the distant reaches of space. The crew was weary but well-trained, accustomed to the long stretches of quiet between missions. The silence of the dark expanse became routine, the dull hum of the ship's engines a comforting constant. It started as a faint blip on the sensors, something irregular in the midst of the cold, empty stars. The anomaly wasn't particularly unusual at first. Space was full of unknowns. But this one had an odd characteristic, something that no one on the crew could immediately explain. The ship altered its course, heading toward the strange signal. As they neared, it became clear that this wasn't an asteroid or debris. It was a ship, a rogue vessel drifting in the middle of nowhere. Its design was unfamiliar, the hull scarred by what appeared to be weapons fire, but it emitted no distress signals, no beacons. Its energy readings were erratic, almost as if the ship were blinking in and out of reality. The human vessel approached cautiously, scanning the rogue ship for life signs or active systems. Nothing. The ship seemed dead, a ghost drifting through space. Still, something felt wrong, a lingering unease settling over the crew as they prepared to investigate. The captain ordered a closer approach, the human ship docking alongside the rogue vessel. A small boarding team suited up and crossed the distance through the docking umbilical, their movements slow and deliberate. The airlock hissed open, and the team stepped inside the unknown ship. The interior was dark, eerily silent. The walls were smooth, metallic, but covered in an odd, almost organic pattern that gave the impression the ship had grown rather than been built. No lights flickered, no systems hummed. The team's footsteps echoed in the emptiness as they advanced deeper into the vessel. Suddenly, the air shifted. A flicker, just on the edge of perception, rippled through the corridor. The team stopped, glancing at each other. Then it happened again, a shimmer in the space around them, as if the ship itself had momentarily become insubstantial. The leader of the team motioned for them to continue, but the tension was palpable. As they reached what appeared to be the bridge of the ship, they found something they hadn't expected: logs, data terminals, and strange symbols etched into the walls. But the centerpiece was a device that none of them could identify. It stood at the center of the bridge, surrounded by faint, glowing lines of energy that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the flickering ship. The device was active, back on the human ship. The crew continued monitoring the strange vessel from a distance, noting the increasing fluctuations in its energy field. The rogue ship wasn't just drifting. It was actively moving between dimensions. The human ship's sensors picked up temporal distortions around it, brief flashes where the ship seemed to disappear entirely before reappearing in the same spot. Whatever this vessel was, it had the ability to shift in and out of reality. The boarding team on the rogue ship attempted to access its systems, but the moment they touched the device at the center of the bridge, the ship came to life. Panels lit up and a low hum filled the air. Then, without warning, the rogue vessel vanished entirely, along with the human boarding team. Back on the human ship, alarms blared as the rogue ship disappeared from every sensor. The crew scrambled to understand what had just happened, but before they could react, the rogue vessel reappeared. This time, much closer. The captain ordered the ship to retreat, but the rogue vessel was fast, far faster than its size suggested. It blinked in and out of existence, closing the distance in seconds as if playing with the human ship. The rogue vessel began transmitting a signal, an unknown code that scrambled the human ship systems, throwing everything into chaos. The human crew watched in horror as their instruments went haywire, displays flickering and dying. The rogue ship was too powerful, too alien. Whatever technology it possessed was far beyond their understanding. Then came the voice. It wasn't transmitted in any language they recognized, but it spoke directly into their minds, a presence that filled the ship. "We are the Rift Hunters," it said. "You have entered our domain." The captain ordered immediate evasive action, but the ship was caught. The rogue vessel opened a rift, a tear in space itself. and the human ship was pulled into it, swallowed by a swirling vortex of light and darkness. When the crew regained their bearings, they found themselves in a place that defied all understanding. The stars were gone, replaced by swirling tendrils of energy and vast, incomprehensible shapes moving in the distance. The ship's systems were barely functioning, struggling to make sense of the new environment. The voice returned, echoing in their minds. "You have been chosen," it said, "to hunt or to be hunted." Before the crew could respond, the rogue vessel appeared again, materializing out of the shifting space. It was no longer alone. Other ships, different in size and shape, but all with the same flickering, ethereal quality, joined it. These were Rift Hunters, a fleet of vessels moving between dimensions, hunting something unknown, their purpose hidden from those trapped in the lower realms of existence. The human crew quickly realized they weren't just prisoners. They were prey. The Rift Hunters were pursuing something far more dangerous, something that had escaped into the multiverse. And now, the humans were caught in the middle of the chase. As the human ship attempted to navigate the strange space, they encountered remnants of other civilizations. Vessels from countless worlds, abandoned and derelict, torn apart by the rift. The captain pieced together that these ships had been part of the hunt, unwilling participants like them, forced into a deadly game where survival meant understanding the rules of a dimension that defied reason. The humans worked frantically to modify their ship systems, trying to adapt to the new reality. Time and space no longer followed familiar patterns. What seemed like minutes in one moment stretched into hours or days in the next. The crew's sense of reality warped with each passing moment, their thoughts tangled by the overwhelming presence of the Rift Hunters. Then one day, or perhaps one instant, it appeared, the thing the Rift Hunters had been chasing. A massive, shifting entity, a being made of pure energy and chaos, flickered into existence. It tore through the rift, devouring everything in its path, consuming both matter and time itself. The human ship was caught in the crossfire as the Rift Hunters descended upon the creature, their ships flaring with energy as they launched their attack. The battle was unlike anything the human crew had ever witnessed, the laws of physics bending and breaking as the combatants clashed in the unstable rift. Amidst the chaos, the human captain made a desperate decision. They would escape the rift, no matter the cost. Using the data they had collected from the rogue ship and the strange device on its bridge, the crew initiated a risky maneuver to force their way back into normal space. The ship shuddered violently as it ripped free from the rift, the swirling energies tearing at its hull. But against all odds, the ship broke through. The human ship reappeared in real space, battered and barely functional but intact. The crew, exhausted and shaken, watched as the Rift Hunters continued their battle far beyond the reach of their sensors, locked in a war that spanned dimensions. In the quiet aftermath, the captain sat in silence, contemplating what they had seen. The Rift Hunters were still out there, moving between realities, hunting forces that no one else could comprehend. And they had been pulled into that hunt, if only for a moment. The question remained, had they truly escaped, or had the Rift Hunters let them go? The captain wasn't sure. But one thing was certain. Space was far more dangerous and mysterious than anyone had ever imagined. The crew of the human ship drifted in stunned silence. The rift behind them had sealed shut. The swirling chaos of that other realm, now just a memory, a terrible one. Their ship was badly damaged, systems barely holding together. The one sleek vessel now looked ragged, its hull torn and scorched, a physical testament to the impossible battle they had witnessed. The captain sat in the command chair, eyes fixed on the starless expanse in front of them. The Rift Hunters were out there, still hunting, still chasing things that no human could even begin to understand. The vastness of space had always been terrifying in its emptiness, but now it was terrifying for another reason. What lurked beyond the veil of reality? "Status report," the captain ordered, their voice hoarse. The crew moved sluggishly, their movements slow, haunted by what they had seen in the rift. After a few moments, One of the officers spoke up, their voice trembling. Most systems are offline. We've lost a third of the ship's power, and we're running on emergency reserves. Engines are barely functional. And the rift? The captain asked. It's gone, sir. No sign of any dimensional fluctuations. We're back in normal space. The captain leaned back in their seat, rubbing their eyes. They had escaped, but the question still lingered. Why had the Rift Hunters let them go? Or had they even been aware of the humans at all? The hunters had been so focused on their prey, on the massive, chaotic entity tearing through dimensions, that it was possible the humans were nothing more than a passing curiosity to them, insignificant in the grand scheme of things. The captain's mind raced. They had to report this. The Galactic Council needed to know what they had encountered, what dangers lay hidden in the rifts between realities. But even as a thought crossed their mind, another more unsettling idea crept in. Would anyone believe them? Send a distress signal, the captain ordered. We need repairs and a full report sent to command. The communications officer hesitated. Sir, I'm not sure we can. The damage to our systems, it might take days to restore communications. The captain nodded. Resigned to the situation, they were alone for now, adrift in a silent part of space. The rest of the galaxy carried on, unaware of the horrors they had just faced. They could only hope that the Rift Hunters, and whatever they were hunting, would stay away from their reality. But as the days passed and the crew worked tirelessly to repair the ship, a strange tension filled the air. They had escaped the rift, but the encounter had left its mark. Some of the crew reported hearing whispers in the dark corners of the ship, fleeting glimpses of shadows that seemed to move on their own. Others had nightmares, visions of the rift, of being pulled back into that hellish dimension, of the Rift Hunters coming for them. The captain didn't speak of it, but they too felt the weight of the rift hanging over them. It was as if the ship itself had been touched by the place, forever altered in some way they couldn't quite understand. The longer they drifted, the more it felt like they hadn't truly left the rift behind. Weeks passed before a rescue ship arrived. By the time it did, the human crew was on edge, their nerves frayed. The ship had been repaired enough to limp back to a nearby starport, but something in the atmosphere between the crew members had shifted, an unspoken fear lingering in their minds. The debriefing with the Galactic Council was tense. The captain relayed everything they had seen. The rogue ship, the Rift Hunters, the battle between dimensions, and the chaotic entity that had nearly torn them apart. The council members listened in stunned silence, their faces a mix of disbelief and concern. They had heard of rift phenomena before, but nothing on this scale, nothing so organized or deliberate. When the captain finished, there was a long pause. Then, one of the counselors spoke, their voice calm but icy. This Rift Hunter phenomenon, they said slowly, is deeply troubling. You are not the first to report such events, but yours is by far the most detailed account. It seems these hunters have been active for much longer than we realized. Another counselor, an elder with a furrowed brow, leaned forward. What do you suggest we do? Are they a threat to our reality? Can they breach into our dimension at will? The captain hesitated. I don't know, they admitted. They didn't seem interested in us. They were focused on their prey, the creature we saw. But that doesn't mean they aren't a threat. We were caught in their hunt, and we barely survived. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. One of them spoke, their voice low and grave. We need more information. If these Rift Hunters can move between dimensions at will, they could pose a danger far beyond anything we've faced before. The captain nodded. We don't know how many of them there are or what they're truly hunting, but the technology they possess, it's far beyond ours. We barely scratched the surface of their capabilities. A cold silence settled over the room. The galaxy had always been vast and full of mysteries, but now it seemed that even reality itself was not a boundary anymore. The Rift Hunters moved freely between dimensions, hunting creatures that could tear apart entire worlds. And the humans had been caught in the middle. As the captain left the debriefing, they couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The Rift Hunters were out there, moving through dimensions, hunting things that no one could comprehend. And now the Galactic Council was aware of them. Back aboard the ship, the crew prepared for their next mission. They had been given new orders to investigate further into the rift phenomena, to gather more data on the rift hunters and their activities. The captain was uneasy about returning to the fringes of space, but there was no choice. The council had made it clear this was now a matter of galactic security. As the human ship prepared to leave dock, the captain stood on the bridge, staring out at the stars. Somewhere out there, in the vast dark void, the rift hunters were still hunting. They could feel it, a lingering presence just beyond the edges of perception. The ship's engines roared to life, and the vessel drifted out into space once more. The crew was tense, their minds still haunted by the rift, but they were ready. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. But in the quiet moments, when the stars were just pinpricks of light in the vast darkness, the captain couldn't shake the feeling that the rift hunters were watching, and that, one day, they would return, because the hunt never truly ended. Not in this universe. Not in any universe.